Hello, hello, hello. Ooh, 1 minute. Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, good evening. Who's out there? We had a technical glitch just as we were starting. But we're back on now and we are live. We're back on now and we are live. Who's there? Who's out there tonight? Hello, hello, hello. The information that you're about to get tonight must be so vital. Last Wednesday was phenomenal. I can't imagine what this Wednesday is going to be like. We are live and direct. Please, right now, very quickly, start sharing the link with everyone you know to jump on board and join us also for another illuminating evening as we talk about our finances, mastering your money. It's time for you to master your money and for your money not to master you. Like I like to say, money is a wonderful, wonderful servant, but a terrible master. You need to be the one that's in control of your money and not your money that's in control of you. So quickly share the link, send out WhatsApp messages, text out the text messages to everyone you know to get on board and join us right now. We are live and we are direct, and this promises to be another wonderful, wonderful evening. Please use the chat columns to stay interactive. Let's make this interactive. Let's make this engaging. I can already see some people in the chat column. Nicole, good to see you. Minister Tomori, Pastor Edbert, that one dancer, good to see you. Use the chat column because we want this to be live. We want it to be interactive. We want you to be able to ask questions as we go along and also express yourself when something really hits you, when something resonates with you. Feel free to engage right there on that platform. Emmanuel Mpendo, I see you too online. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Great to have you on board tonight. So let's go out of our way right now, start inviting others quickly, invite others, send the messages out, share the link. I think I'm going to try to do the same right now. I'm going to try to do the same also on my own, to my own WhatsApp community. I'm going to send out the link so that they'll know that we are live and they will be able to join us also. So while you are doing that, I'm doing that too. Let's get as many people on board here as possible because this is going to be a life-changing, transforming night. Yep, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. You don't want to miss this one. And you don't want anybody in your friendship circle or in your family to miss out on what's happening here tonight. All right. Can I have some feedback as regards last week, Wednesday, in the chat? Can I have some feedback? How was last week, Wednesday, for you with financial coach Ronke Dewumi? She was such a blessing. Does anybody have any feedback? How did they find last week, Wednesday? Have you started making any changes that were suggested by her last week, Wednesday? Use the chat. Let's know. It'd be great to hear from you. Somebody says it was amazing. I see that. Somebody says phenomenal. Yep, brilliant. I'm happy. I'm happy that it's hitting all home. Somebody says she hit some of my common pitfalls. I think that a lot of people felt like that too. It felt like she was getting into our business. Yes, so no more shopping on empty stomach. That's so funny, but that's so good. It seems like on this money matter, we really have to be very brutal. We got to be brutal if we're going to thrive, not just survive. We are going to thrive in Jesus' mighty, mighty name. Amen and amen. Have you sent out the messages? Have you invited others to jump on board with us this evening? Look, everybody you invite that comes on board is going to end up thanking you later. They're going to tell you that thank you for having me come on board there. It really, really made a difference in my life. I assure you, that's the testimony that you are going to get, the thank you that you are going to get from others that you invite on board and that jump on tonight. So make sure you've done that. Make sure you've done that. Make sure you've invited others to come on board. We've got a very special guest with us tonight. He's another phenomenal brain, a brilliant, brilliant man. I met him maybe a couple of years or a few years ago, and I knew that the day was coming when I needed him to come and share some of his wisdom with this congregation. This will be the first time, but it won't be the last time that we will have him. So let me tell you a little bit about him. Emmanuel is a qualified financial advisor with over 15 years in the industry and stands as a beacon of financial literacy. You know, I talk to you a lot about financial intelligence, that it's not enough to have spiritual intelligence without financial intelligence. Well, this is somebody that knows about financial intelligence. He's renowned for captivating talks that have reached over 50,000 people nationwide. He has graced major media platforms and served as a financial expert on BBC Radio, Channel 4, Jeremy Wine, and ITV, putting him in the homes of millions of viewers across the UK. He's the founder of the Iman Effect and a partner at Belvedere Wealth Management. He empowers individuals, families, and businesses towards financial independence. Emmanuel is also the author of the Amazon bestseller Get Your Money Right, which demystifies my finances and promotes a healthy money mindset. As an ambassador for the NSPCC, Prince's Trust, and my BNK, Emmanuel is committed to imparting financial wisdom, breaking the chains of economic hardship through financial education, and becoming the financial advisor to the nation. And that only says a little about who he is. He's busy. He's busy just educating people financially. And it's such an honor and such a pleasure to have him on board with us tonight. So welcome up on stage, the one, Emmanuel Asuquo. Welcome.
Hey, Pastor Timmy, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you doing?
I'm feeling blessed, man. I'm feeling blessed. I can see the energy. I can see people already. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm super happy to have you on board here. And we don't want to waste time because we want to be pretty disciplined about our time so that we can cover as much ground as possible. But before we start getting into the questions, because what we wanted to do tonight was going to be a full question and answer session, I just wanted to just banter with you a little bit. How did you get onto this pathway of financial education, financial literacy, financial coaching and advising? What motivated you? What's your why, man?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I guess my why was always my mum. My mum. We grew up on a council estate in Tower Hamlets, East London, and I used to live in a place called Limehouse, which is very close to Canary Wharf. And my mum and dad, but my dad used to work a lot. Obviously, you know how it is working. He's an accountant, so he was studying and working at the same time. So, you know, my mum always was the one that chose to do a job as a dinner lady at schools, so she could be at home. By the time that we finished school, she could be at home. So where a lot of my other friends' parents were working and they weren't at home, so they could roam on the streets or do whatever they wanted, my mum made sure that she came home. So we had to make sure we was in the house. And just seeing her hard work, she had arthritis in her knee and she used to struggle and limp but she would do whatever it took to provide for us. And I remember looking out of the window and seeing the buildings in Canary Wharf and just feeling like my change is there. And I always tell people, you know, sometimes you just have to have a vision beyond your situation. Like, forget, you know, the fact that we didn't have much and we were on a council estate. I could see the bright lights of Canary Wharf and I said, I want to be there. And, you know, that vision, by 22, I became the youngest financial advisor in Barclays in the country, and then carried on carried on from there, and then realized that I got tired of just helping rich people get richer. And so after working at a few other banks, I then decided to go online and teach people about finance online. And then I was spotted by Channel 4. They saw my content, and I got an opportunity to do a TV show towards the end of 2019 for Channel 4. After that, we had the pandemic. And I always tell people, sometimes you don't have to wait for the opportunity. You need to be doing the work, and then the opportunity will come. And what happened was the pandemic hit, which means that a lot of people are talking about finance. Then we had the tragedy with George Floyd, which meant that media companies were looking for Black people to talk. And obviously I'm a Black person that talks about finance, and I haven't stopped working since. That was 2020, and I have not stopped being on TV, radio, traveling the country, going abroad, obviously books, all of this. And now this is what I do full time. So that's kind of how I got it. And it was really, and I always encourage everyone to have a vision beyond your situation.
Brilliant. Wow, I'm already inspired. Just hearing your story is already inspirational. Have a vision beyond your situation. That I could preach that, man. I could preach that. Because so many people are locked up in their situation.
Yeah.
And they need to be able to see beyond that situation. So thank you once again for honoring our invitation and being on here tonight. The people have been really good. They've already dropped so many good questions. I doubt that we'll be able to finish them, but we'll go as far as we can. Sure. And people already in the audience, we're also opening the floor for those of you that want to drop live questions apart from the ones that have been submitted earlier. So we'll try to be alternating between those that were submitted earlier and any ones that you drop on the platform. And we're trying to be disciplined. So we are going to do everything in our power to try to finish at 8:30 or maybe just a few minutes after 8:30. So we're diving right in right now. Okay, so where do we start from? Financial intelligence. What is money management, and why is it so important? Somebody dropped that question earlier. What is money management and why is it so important?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think the way I always say it is when you go to work and you start a new job, what do? They have an induction. Yeah, so you have an induction process when you go to work. They will tell you, this is your desk. Here's where the toilets are. This is the lunchroom. These are the fire exits. You have an induction into that work, into that office. So you understand the rules of play. You understand how things are done within that environment. I ask a lot of people, have you done an induction for your money? Have you been putting the rules in place of how your money works? You see, we go out to make money and we go and work hard for our money, but we haven't taken the time for when our money comes in to tell our money what are the rules of engagement when it comes to us and our household and our bank account and how our lives and how we're going to treat money. And so money management is your workplace induction to your money. What we're saying is that we don't want money to just come in and money to go out, because money flows. And I tell people, it's not about how much money you make, it's about what you can do with it. We all know the story of Mike Tyson, who made over 400 million and still went bankrupt. So if somebody can make 400 million, if $400 million is not enough money, then don't ever think that you can make enough. It's about understanding the key principles. And money management is your induction to your money. You're saying, when it comes to money, this is how much we're going to use to pay our bills. This is how much money we're going to use to spend. This is how much money we're going to use to save. This is how we're going to invest. This is how if we're going to borrow, this is the rules of how we borrow money, why we borrow money. Money management is all about inducting your money. And it's something that I can tell you 99% of people have not done. You've never sat down and said, these are the rules to my money. And because of that, money is lawless. Because of that, your money is lawless. Anything can happen. 1 month, at the end of the month, you have £500 left over. The next month, you're £1,000 in overdraft. You're saying, what's happening? You've never ever sat down and set the rules and regulations for your money, so your money is running lawless.
Brilliant. I mean, somebody said it's already getting hot in here. And that's so true, that most people don't have any parameters, any decisions as regards what their money is going to do. No education on money at all. So as the money comes in, it goes out. And very often more is going on that came in.
Exactly.
Trouble. That's trouble right there. Okay, quick follow-on question to that is like, what are some common money management mistakes to avoid? Or what are bad money habits which you advise we should refrain from?
There's too many to list, but I would say the main ones is having all your money in one account. Big problem. Big
Hmm.
problem. So what we have is that a lot of people have one account, your bank account, your current account. You get paid into your current account. You pay your bills from that same current account. You spend from that current account. You try and save in that same current account. And what happens is that Friday night comes, you've got money, you go out Friday, you enjoy Sunday, you're giving all your tithes and all your blessings on Sunday, and Saturday you've enjoyed, and then Monday comes and direct debits come out. And by Tuesday, it's pot noodles for the Indomie, pot noodles for the rest of the month. So it's one of those things that you have to allocate your money. So I always tell people have at least 3 accounts. You have an account, a fixed cost account that you pay all your bills from. So all the things that you know that come out every month. Sometimes I'm shocked. We have the same bills that come out every month, yet you're surprised you're broke. Like, it's like, if you think about it, where does the surprise come from? It happens every month. There should be no surprise. It's the same bills that were last month that are coming out this month. There should be no surprise. So what we have to start doing is saying, actually, I've got a fixed cost account, so my fixed costs come out from this account. Then I have a spending account. I put myself on a budget. That's what people don't do. You don't put yourself on a budget. You pay your bills, and then it's a game. How quickly can I spend this money until the end of the month? In fact, guess what we do? We clap for ourselves. At the end of the month, you say, I've spent all my money, and then it's payday again, and you celebrate. Let me tell you something. I ask this question to people all the time. Who wants to work forever? Everybody says, I don't want to work forever. But the way you use your money says you want to work forever. Because if you go to work and all the money you make from work you spend, then you're going to always have to work. So we have to start looking at, I always tell people we have to be intentional. You can say, I want to live, I want to retire early. Your actions say you want to work forever. For the majority of you on this right now, and the majority of people out there, the way you manage your money says you want to work forever. And guess what? That's what the system wants. They want you to work forever because they want to take your tax. They want to take your national insurance. They want you to go and they want you to spend your money on travel, all helping the system, but not helping you. So it's really important that you understand that. And then the third account is your savings account. And that's where I always tell people that's where you need to pay yourself first. You need to pay. Before you pay your landlord, before you pay British Gas, before you pay Disney Plus, Sky, pay yourself. Is it not you that went to work for the days? Is it not that you that had to deal with your manager on your back every single day? So why do you pay yourself after you pay everybody else? So these are common mistakes. Another mistake people make is you have a savings account on your online banking. So your current account and your savings account, you see every time you go to look at your current account, you can see your savings. And what happens? You will then transfer from your savings to your current. You're fooling yourself. You know how many people it's not me. You're not fooling me. You're fooling yourself. At the beginning of the month, you'll put money in savings. Within 10 days, you're taking money from your savings back into your current. Who have you fooled? You fooled yourself. So it's really important if you're serious about saving that you don't. If I know that I bank with Barclays, for example, then I know my savings should be with NatWest or my savings should be with Nationwide or another. I shouldn't be seeing it because as humans, if I see that I've got £5,000 in that savings account, I tell you, the second I walk on the street, I'm walking different. I'm looking at all the shops and I'm saying, I can buy that. I can afford that. I can get that if I want. And before you know, you are spending. All of a sudden, I tell people, another mistake we make, the second we start to make more money, we start to spend more money. It's a big mistake. What happens? When we were broke, Lidl and Aldi, milk, bread, water, it was fine. The second we start making money, now it's Marks and Spencer's and Waitrose. It doesn't taste the same. All of a sudden, milk from cow doesn't taste the same. Water from the mountains doesn't taste the same. The bread is different. When you're making money, the bread is different. The butter is different. And this is what happens. We make more money, but we don't see our money because we spend more money as we make more. And so there needs to be that gap. These are mistakes. Another big mistake that we make, delayed gratification. We are instant gratification generation. We want everything now. I tell people, how many times have you gone to the train station? It says 3 minutes and you're upset. 3 minutes and they say it's a good service. You're upset to wait 3 minutes. The reality is that 3 minutes is not long, but we are we are so programmed to have everything at our fingertips. We don't want to wait. And what happens is that because we can't delay our gratification, we spend and we live on the money we earn. And delaying your gratification means I'm not going to spend all of this money now. I'm going to put some of this money away and invest it, because in the future, these investments will provide me an income, which means I will not have to work. All right. Now, another mistake you make, social media. How often you want to keep up with the Joneses? Because why? We do not use critical thinking. Pastor, we are lacking critical thinking. Yeah? And I'll give you a perfect example. You see somebody with keys next to a door, and now you assume because they have keys next to a door, the house behind them is theirs. Did you see the deeds? Were you the conveyancer? Were you the solicitor that signed the deeds? We can't critically think anymore. All of a sudden, you've ruined your whole day. You can't even sleep. You're tossing and turning all night because that your friend that you thought was useless has now got a new house or a new car or is in holiday, going holidays to places you can't go holiday. And the problem is that it's called personal finance. Do you understand, Pastor? Personal finance. If it's personal, that means it's your own journey. So why do we call it personal finance, yet we like to do comparative finance? We like to compare our finances to other. It's not called comparative finance. It is personal finance, okay? And so it's so important that we understand that. And then finally, we do not, and there's so much more, but the final one I'm going to give you is we do not understand the difference between what we need and what we want.
Oh my.
Our needs and wants are completely, it's a mess. You may need a car, but the car doesn't have to be a Mercedes or BMW. At your level, the most you should be looking at is a Ford Focus, But all of a sudden, because you've seen stuff online, now you start to push yourself into places that you can't. Then the second the tire bursts or the window break or a dent or something happens, all of a sudden you're bankrupt. For who? Understand your own journey. You understand, and this is the problem. When you come from poverty and scarcity and not having much, you define yourself by the things you assume rich people have. So if I'm not rich, if I'm not wealthy, what do I want to do? To make myself feel better, I surround myself with things I think wealthy people have. So all of a sudden, now I must have an LV bag or Dior or Gucci. But I know that my bank account is screaming, save me. Every month is saying, save me. But instead, you are out here spending money that you can't really afford to impress people. I tell people, we had a pandemic. Everybody was scared. We thought people were dying left, right, and center. The people that you are trying to impress, how many of them text you to see, are you okay? The people that you are now making financial decisions that are putting you years back and stopping you from getting wealth and ownership, those people, how many of them called you, messaged you, checked on you during the pandemic? But yet today, you are making financial decisions that are going to affect you, your children, and your children's children because of them. My people perish because of lack of knowledge.
Come on. Thank you, Emmanuel. My people are enjoying this, even though it's tough medicine. All right, let's try to move forward. I'm going to jump a little bit ahead, just a little bit, too, because you talked about needs and wants. Yes. So I want to go a little bit into assets and liabilities.
Yes.
Okay. How do I differentiate what is an asset and what is a liability?
I love this question. This question is beautiful. It's a fantastic question because a lot of people are confused. The difference between an asset and a liability is how it's used, not what it is. I'm going to give you some examples.
Please.
So the first one people always say is a liability is a car, right? So they'll say a car, it depreciates in value, it goes down in value. So they say to get a loan on a car, so let's say the car is worth 20,000. You buy a car for 20,000, you get a loan. Let's say, to keep the math simple, the interest is 10,000. So you're going to pay back £30,000 on something that costs £20,000, but each year is going down in value. So the first year goes from 20,000 to 15, then to 12, then to 10. So it's lost half its value within the first 3 or 4 years. So they would say that is a liability. Okay, that is, we say that's a liability. However, if I buy that car and then I decide, because I only use the car on the weekends to go to church and look good, if I decide that Monday to Friday I'm going to rent that car out, now that car brings me an income. Now it's an asset. Give you another example. Trainers. People love to buy trainers. If I buy trainers, a nice pair of trainers, and I wear them, and they were, let's say they're £150, and I wear them, and because I've worn them out, now they're worth £60. That's a liability. If I buy those same £150 trainers, but they're rare, and I keep them for 2 or 3 years, and now they're worth £400, it's an asset. The difference between an asset and liability is how it's used, not what it is. Anything can be an asset, anything can be a liability, depending on how you use it. Okay. So that's the difference. And so what I want people to understand is and this is some things in your life. This is not just money, this is life. There are things, someone might look at you as a liability, but I want you to know that you used in the right way, you are an asset. You might look at your life right now and feel that all I have is liabilities, all I have is debt. But I want you to know, in the right environment, with the right education, with the right network, with the right influence, with the right mentor around you, you will become an asset. So don't ever understand that asset is all about how it's used. And if you use it in the right way, even something that people will say is a liability can turn into an asset.
Brilliant. I absolutely love the way you've explained it, because this is the way I like to talk about it also. I mean, the typical thing that people will tell you is that an asset is what puts money in your pocket, while the liability is what takes money out of your pocket. And then we often use that simplistic definition to say, okay, a car is definitely a liability because it's taking money out of your pocket. It's not putting money in your pocket. But just like you've been saying, it depends on how I'm using that car. What if I'm using it as Uber? What if I'm using it as Bolt? What if I'm using it to increase my income? So all of a sudden, what would normally have been a liability is now an asset because it's increasing my income. So this changes our thinking, or should change our thinking, to start saying, okay, even the things that are quote unquote inevitable liabilities in our lives, are there ways we can turn them around and start making them assets? Brilliant, brilliant. Next question here says, how do I start budgeting if I've never done it before?
How do you budget if you've never budgeted before? That's a great question. I think the easiest thing to do is to start small. I always tell people the same principles to manage £10 is the same principles you'll use to manage £100, £1,000, 10,000, 100,000, and so on. So first of all, so that's why budgeting can start as young as children. So even my children, I've got young kids. When they get money from their birthdays or stuff like that, I will never let them spend all the money that they get, because it's a false reality. A lot of us have grown up on a false reality. We grew up, we got money, and then we went and spent it and bought sweets. But the reality is, when you go to work, before you get your money, the tax man has already the tax has already come out. Then when you got it, you still got bills. You got to pay for your house. You got to pay for your electricity. There are things that are going to take money out of your pocket in the real world. So children will learn from now that even now, you're not going to spend all of it. So it's about looking at, I always tell people, have your immediate, so really short term, things that you might want to spend money on, have your medium term, and then have your long term. So a great example, you might say, okay, I've got some money coming in. I really wanted to buy something. So that might be immediate. So you put some money towards that. Then you say, well, I'm thinking about buying a car. So I want to save some money towards that. And then I'm thinking about, I want to retire. So I'm going to put some money towards my pension. Now you split that money into 3 different things. I think that is the simplest way to get started. But really, if you've got money coming in, It's about looking at how much do I have coming in and how much do I have going out, and really understand what's the difference. What do I actually have to play with? Like, and then once you look at, when it comes to what you have going out, look at what is stuff that I need, that I must pay, and what are the things that I'm choosing to pay, and really differentiate between the two, because it's really important that you understand the only things you have to pay are the things that you need to pay for. So everything else is a choice that you're making. All right. And so, but now ask yourself that question: am I making the right choices with these spending? And you can look at your bank statements. And if you've got accounts like Monzo or Starling, they help you break down your spending. You don't even need spreadsheets and all of these other things anymore. These accounts can help you really understand where your money is going and how it's being spent.
Brilliant, Emmanuel. Absolutely brilliant. As you were talking about budgeting, I remembered when I got married, when we started our journey, we budgeted using percentages rather than amounts.
Yes.
So what that helped us do is, okay, tithe 10%. Food, we want to do 15. So we broke everything down into percentages. Yes. Then we did our income, calculated what each percentage came up to. And that meant that if the percentage for money came up to 400 pounds, for example, that's it. We only have 400 pounds to spend on food that month. Yes. It wasn't a function of, we need to spend 700. No, we only, our budget says we only have 400. So how are we going to make that 400 work? So I like what you're saying. Start where you are, know what the essentials are, and know the things that are you're just choosing to do. And then my added suggestion is consider percentages and stick with it, Brilliant. There are many other questions here, but let me see which next one I'll throw out there. Or is there somebody might have asked something online in the chat? Our moderator in the background might see one that they can throw up there before I go back to what is here. Okay, this person says, Keisha says, is it a good idea to invest in shares?
It's a very good question. I think the simple answer is yes. However, there's a process. I feel like a lot of people, we like to talk about investing in shares because we've seen movies like The Wolf of Wall Street, and we've seen all these and we think that we're just gonna, pick these stocks and make millions, and we love the fast lane. So stocks, the key principle is before you even get to investing in shares, you need to be able to budget your money well. You need to have an emergency fund, which tends to be at least 3 months of the outgoings. So remember that I said those core outgoings of those needs that you have to spend each month. You want to have at least 3 months of that in an account before you start investing. Now, when we then go to start investing, yes, shares are an option, but actually when you might start with funds. Okay. So the difference is a fund, you are basically putting money. There's a fund manager, you are putting your money, and the fund manager is picking the individual stocks. You are just putting your money each month. You don't have to know shares. You don't have to do any research. You just put your money in and they're managing it. Okay. And that's a good way to start. Now, again, what you might do further is have a passive fund where you don't even have a manager. You're just following a set index. So, for example, a lot of people will talk about the S&P 500, which is the top 500 US companies. You're looking at, Google, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, all of these big companies that we use every single day are there. So you can just invest in that and begin. And it's done an average of around between 8 to 10% over, since inception, if you work it backwards. So it works but these things go up and down. So it's not always about talking about the up. Understand that there's downs as well. Hence why you don't put all your money into these things. Then the level up from funds is then buying individual shares. Now, obviously, it's more risky because you're putting all your money in one company. So if that company collapses, your money's completely gone. So you need to do the research to make sure. We're not gambling here. We're not talking about, I think I like this or I like their name, so I'm just gonna put my money in it, or somebody sent me a WhatsApp message and I'm just gonna no. We don't. We're not. You're not an investor. You're a gambler. We don't do gambling over here. If you're an investor, you've done research. You looked at what the company is about. You searched them in the news. You looked at where they're going. You looked at their partners. You can go onto Yahoo Finance and see how much debt have they had over the last few years. You can look at how much inflows they've had over the years. You can look at what the board of directors are planning for the future. You can see any issues that have come up where you're doing the research before you're putting your money in there. But again, this is a longer term strategy. So when we start talking about stocks, shares, investing funds, we're looking at giving it at least a 5-year or more. We're looking at a longer term strategy when we're investing. We're not day trading. You're not putting your money in and trying to take it out on the same day and all of that type of stuff. This is long term investing to get growth and build. But yes, shares are good, but done correctly with the knowledge.
Brilliant. Since somebody has taken us in the direction of investment now, I think that there was another question on investment that we can quickly try to answer. It says, what are some alternative investment options to Bitcoin that you would recommend?
Alternative to Bitcoin?
Yes, apparently from these questions. Is Bitcoin, should we even, is it a bit late to invest in Bitcoin? I don't know.
I mean, the honest truth is, and I like to be honest about these types of things. For a lot of people that are talking about crypto and Bitcoin and so forth, some of you struggle with PowerPoint. Some of you struggle to change the password on your phone. I don't think this investment is the right one for you at this time. There are other things that you need to know before you go and start throwing your life savings in this direction. But if you are comfortable with these types of investments and so forth, I would say that we have moved, since the pandemic, we have seen that we are using cash less. So we are a society where we use less cash. So that means that other currencies are going to come in and be used. I see Bitcoin and crypto being very useful in places like Africa. So I'm Nigerian, and if you understand how the naira fluctuates, if you had a currency like Bitcoin if Bitcoin was a bit more stable, you could understand why people might request to be paid in Bitcoin as opposed to naira. So I see where it can happen. I can see with money transfer, taking away the fees and so forth, and taking back control. So I can understand, and I feel it is the future. However, I feel that there is a big knowledge gap that people take. So I say, before we start to invest real money, let's start to invest in real knowledge. Okay. So once you've invested real knowledge into what we want to put real money into, then the two can match. All right. So that's where I think I am with it. But yes, I think crypto, Bitcoin, some people like to invest in gold, precious metals. There are other alternative investments that you can do other than the norm, but I think it's really important first to invest in your mind and in your knowledge before you invest real money.
I love that. Invest in your knowledge before you start investing the money. And then the truth be told, it's good that we are talking about investments, great stuff, but a lot of people haven't even managed or handled the base one that we're talking about, budgeting. Yes. Managing your income and your outflow and all of those type of things. So it's a bit premature to be jumping into big things that you don't quite understand. And a lot of the time, people are going in with a lottery mindset, a gambling mindset that I'll just do it and I'll hit it. Okay, so I'm going to get to a few more practical questions again to help people here. Okay, by having a savings in my savings account, do you think it's value for money, particularly at this time?
It's a good question. I think, number one, interest rates have gone up, so hopefully you should be getting a decent amount on there. But it all depends on what the money is for. Like I said, once you've got your emergency fund and you've got that amount of money that you're comfortable in cash, that should be in savings. Other than that, you should be looking at ways to try and invest that money, to grow that money and build that money. Now, again, if you are looking to purchase a property and that money's for a deposit and you know that you've got 18 months, 2 years until you get to that, you're going to need it, then I would say leave it in cash. Do you know what I mean? Don't try and invest it and risk losing it if you know that if you carry on putting the amount that you're going to put in, you're going to get to your goal within the next 18 months. Like I said, investing really should be, you should be looking at 5 years or more. So it depends on why you have the money in cash, what you're doing with that money in cash, but also look on comparison sites. There's money.co.uk. So that's money.co.uk. There's Money Saving Expert, and there's Money Supermarket. All of those, you can go on there and you can find what are the best rates for instant savings accounts, what are the best rates for regular savers, and make sure that you're getting the best rate on your money. One of the big mistakes people make is being loyal to your bank and then not getting the best rate. I want to remind everyone, banks don't use bank accounts. I say this all the time. People look at me funny, but understand your bank doesn't use bank account. Your bank, while you are leaving all your money in a bank account, banks are investing your money. Yeah. When you see the head office of all these big banks, all those floors, those are not customer service floors. They're not all on these floors to answer your phone calls. They are trading your money, making your money work for them every single day. And then what do? They then give it out as mortgages and give it out at loans at higher rates. So they take your money at 3 or 4%, and then they lend it out at 5, 6, 7, 8%. And then the money that they don't lend out, they invest it. Banks are not using bank accounts. So don't leave all your money in a bank account.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mano. Thank you. Great stuff. Great stuff right there. All right. I'm going to jump to another important question here. Is it better to pay off debt or save money?
Pay off your debt, please. Please, I beg. This question, I hate this question. It just drives me crazy. And someone will tell me, "Oh, I've got £10,000 in savings, but you've got a £20,000 loan. You're 10,000 in debt." Story, you don't try and remix it. You've got, because at the end of the day, whatever you are getting in on your investments or whatever, you've got a guaranteed rate of interest that is being paid there. So pay off your debt. Please be debt free, like in that sense. Now, if it's on a asset and you're leveraging, like for a property or a business loan or so forth, there's no problem. But if you just got debt sitting there and then you're telling yourself, "Well, I'm building my savings," but you owe the bank money and you're paying interest, pay that off. Pay that off. Don't allow yourself to fool yourself into thinking that you have savings and it's going well for you, when really and truly the bank is laughing because they're charging you interest. So it's really important. Pay off the debt. Be free. And remember, if I always tell I have had clients that started off in debt. They've paid money on a regular basis to pay off that debt. They've paid off that debt, and then they've carried on using that money that they were paying off debt to then start saving. And it helped them build the saving habit for them to now get to the point where they've now bought houses. Yeah. So don't feel like because I'm in debt, this is my end call. You use your debt as a lesson to get you to where you're trying to get to. Remember, I said see past your situation. So I tell my clients, don't see that yourself in debt. You're going to use this moment and this time to build a habit that's going to be a habit not just for you, but a habit that you will pass on to your children and your children's children. And so see past your situation. Sometimes we're so covered in debt and where we're at that we want to pretend like it doesn't exist and tell ourselves that we're saving and remain in debt.
Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I agree with everything you're saying here. Hot stuff right there. And I like the last point you just made, that you're trying to clear a loan and you're coughing up £300 per month to get out of debt. Yeah. Now, the mistake that a lot of people make is that the day they finally pay off that loan, they're, "Woo! I'm free now." And they go to town, celebrate the freedom. I've paid off my loan. But what you are saying and what we are saying is that rather than do that, retain the discipline. That same 300 that you are paying monthly for God knows how many months to get out of debt, keep on paying it, but now not for debt, into savings, into an investment. Rather than default back to where you were before. I think that's brilliant. Wow, time is flying. Let me see. There are a few questions, other questions here. Now, what are the pros and cons of using a debit card versus a credit card?
So great question. So debit card is your money, credit card is the bank's money. So so always remember the credit card is not your money. Okay. Now, what the big thing is that when you use a debit cards are great for your own mindset, for you building up and building the habits that we were talking about before. But the problem with a debit card is you get no reward. There's no reward for when you spend on a debit card, but there are rewards when you spend on credit cards. But before you go to spend somebody else's money, make sure you can manage your money. Okay, so I always tell people, first of all, stick to a debit card and build up the habits. But over time, you should replace your debit card with your credit card, because now you can get points. So me, for example, I like to fly British Airways. So I've got an American Express British Airways. I spend on that card things that I would normally pay cash, things that I normally pay debit card, I use on that card. I build up points. Now me and my wife are about to fly off to Trinidad and Tobago. We got a couples voucher, and it's like it cost us hardly anything. Do you know what I mean? Because, and that's money that I would have spent anyway. I haven't spent anything extra. I would have had to pay full ticket price if I had only ever spent on my debit card. All right. So, and people like different things. I'm not saying if you don't like to fly, if you like Marks and Spencer's, you can get whatever you like to enjoy, or whatever it is, you can use a credit card to build up reward points and do it. But just make sure you're spending money that you would normally spend anyway, because what they're trying to do is encourage you to spend more and then you would normally spend, and put yourself in a worse situation. So just keep it to spending stuff that you would normally pay for, whether that be travel, food at work, normal things that you would pay cash, put on your credit card and then pay the full balance off at the end of the month. You'll build up your credit score, and you'll also be able to get points and rewards.
All right. What are the other ways I can build a good credit score? Obviously, from what you've said now, using a credit cards properly. In other words, when you use the credit card, you pay the credit card off. You're not just spending other people's money, and so. And I love what you also said about, first of all, having developed the discipline of handling your own money using your debit card. Now, if you've gotten that in the bag, then you can use your credit card to pay for certain things, knowing fully well that you're going to now use your debit or your bank account to clear whatever you credit to do, and you're getting points, and it's also building your credit rating. Are there any other ways that I can build a good credit rating so that I don't get disqualified for mortgage or for anything?
Yes. So big one is being on the electoral roll. That's really important, whether you're going to vote or not, because that's how banks will assess your address. So, and again, with your address, try to not move too much where possible. So I know, like, for example, you might be at university. If you can have your address be your parents' house, if you have that opportunity, then take advantage of that and keep your address, in one place. But yeah, moving address a lot could affect your credit, but being on the electoral roll is really important for that. Also, using your balance and paying it off. So not having just leaving balances there, closing accounts that you're not using, because again, when you have loads of accounts, if you don't use them, it looks like you have loads of access to loads of credit. So then you might apply for a loan and say, well, you already have all these credit cards you could be using, so we can't give you that loan. So it's really important to if you're not using accounts, close them. And then if you do use your credit, try not to, if you do need to use it and you can't pay it all off, try not to use more than, some people say 30%, other people say 50%, but it's about how much of your credit is called credit utilization. How much of all the credit that you have available to you are you actually using? And they say of all the credit that you have available to you, you should try and use less than 30%. 30% or less, and that will keep you having a good credit score. But if you need to use more, and I always tell people, it all depends. If I know that I've got a 0% credit card and I want to buy some stock for my business, I don't really care about if my credit score comes down in the short term, because I know I'm going to use this and I'm going to make money doing the deal. Do you understand? So don't always feel restricted to these things. You just have to make sure you know what's important to you. Remember, you're not bound by your credit score as long as you don't have missed payments. So always set up a direct debit for for at least the minimum payment, so you don't miss payments, because that's another thing that could affect your credit score. Don't miss payments. Make sure, because people will say, "Oh, I'll pay myself," or "I'll remember," and then you go on holiday and you forget, and then that can affect your credit. So these are things that you really need to make sure you look out for.
All right. So somebody has set up a direct debit on his or her credit card so that at least the minimum payment is going out every month. It never defaults. It always goes out no matter what. Now, is it true that if you only pay that minimum every month on your credit card, you will never actually clear that credit card?
You will clear it, but it will take much longer. But what I would say to you is, Pastor, let's say I asked you for £10,000 and you gave me £10,000, and I said to you, okay, I'm going to pay you back £50 a month. How would you feel?
Wait a minute, no. I've got to pay me some interest, man.
Yeah, because it's not, and that's what people do. They go and swipe your credit card left, right, and center, and then you stay on the minimum. The whole point is that if you can only afford the minimum, you shouldn't really have been spending that money in the first place. This is where we go back to delayed gratification. But it's really important that you understand, the minimum payment, the reason I say have the minimum, at least the direct debit for the minimum payment, is to protect yourself from missing it if you forget. But the reality is when it comes to your credit card, you should always have a plan on how you're paying it back. If you don't have a plan on how to pay it back, you should never have spent in the first place.
Yeah. Brilliant. If you don't have a plan on how you're going to pay it back, you shouldn't have spent it in the first place. I'm repeating it for those sitting at the back. They really need to hear that. All right. Somebody asked quite a good question earlier on, and I think it's about seeds and faith seeds and savings and stuff like that, which is a very naughty area. But I think we need to go there. Let's go there. Okay, says, thanks for all the wisdom shared. Please, what's the place of seed in financial intelligence as people of faith? For example, choosing to sow over savings. What's your view, please?
When you're saying seeds, as in giving to church, as in,
yes, that's what the person. This is somebody that believes strongly. Believers, particularly those of us of charismatic Pentecostal persuasions, believe in the seed faith, where you give to church with certain expectations. I won't go too far down the road there, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely believe that. I think I'm a big believer in value, and so if I'm a part of a church and I go to a church and I know that when I go there, I have a seat to sit down on. When I go there, we're not sitting in the dark. The lights are on. In the winter, it's cold and the heat is keeping me warm. I understand that expenditure has been made in order for me to be able to experience that environment. So if somebody's providing me with value, it only makes sense that I add to the value that I'm being provided. So I'm a big believer in that. Where I feel like, it can go wrong is that when you are now doing it at the detriment. So when I see people will take out loans to plant seeds, or when I see people who will take their children's the savings that they put for their children's education, they will take that out to sow into the church. And I feel, for me, you should have an amount. If you, like you said, in percentages, if you say I want to give 10% each month to church, or 20%, or I want to have an extra 5% that I want to put to be able to give. I don't, not just for church, even for me, I have a separate account. I know that I'm Nigerian. I know that they're going to call me from the village. I don't know when, but I know I'm going to get WhatsApp, text, everything from. So for me, I have an account where I put money in there. Whenever I have money left over, I put it in there. When they ask, I can only give from that account. That's what I can afford to give. Do you know what I mean? And so I feel that when it comes to church, we have to be wise in regards to, if it means that the difference between paying your rent or giving to church, I think that their wisdom should be put in place, that you know, not only for you, for your family, for your kids, there should be shelter above there, and church and God will understand why you need to pay your rent as opposed to put that money into church. I hope that people understand that. But some people, the faith has touched them so much that that sounds ludicrous. And, you know, if they give to church, God will pay their landlord. I haven't seen it happen yet, but it's, you know, I haven't experienced it. But
All right. I agree with you.
You tell me.
I agree with you, Emmanuel. You're making absolutely valid points here, and I think it's really a good question for us to talk about a little bit, particularly as we're coming to the end of our time, because we are dealing with people that are very faith based, and we do believe in giving to church and giving to the kingdom. And the nomenclature that we use, or that a lot of the circles use, is seed sowing. Through your seeds, and a harvest is coming. All right.
Yes.
Now, in sowing seeds, it doesn't mean that we should not be saving. It shouldn't. It's not an either or, and it should not be mutually exclusive. We should be doing both. You should be given to church. Just like you talked, I loved what you were saying about the value exchange. It's only in church, to a very large degree, that people suspend the thinking of the fact that there's a value exchange taking place here. That for the church to do what it is doing, it actually needs finances. And so at the very base level, you're giving is the value exchange for the value that you are getting.
Yes.
You know? But then I think expectations can be very wrong when it comes to seed sowing, because people give financially and then they're expected to get home, open the fridge, and find money sitting in the fridge for them. The expectation, the right expectation we need to have when we sow seeds is that God is going to bless us with favor. God is going to order our steps to where we can go, what we can do, that will now turn into increased financial income. God will give us the knowledge of witty inventions, some idea will be inspired with, and by that idea we'll be able to make more influence, more income. So I'm not expecting money to drop from heaven. Actually, money doesn't come from heaven. It's something that is made down here on earth, right? So what comes down from heaven is the favor, the intelligence, the divine direction for me now to make money. He says he gives us the power to get wealth, not the wealth. So he gives us the power to now get the wealth. So they're not mutually exclusive. We should be doing both seed sowing and saving. Yeah, I think that's what I would have to say about that. I hope that's helpful. I think it is. I think it is. We are at the 8:29 minute. Emmanuel, let's just give the people a couple of more minutes, and then we can't exhaust the questions. There's so many questions here.
We have to do this live one day, Pastor. We have to do a live session.
Yeah. That's becoming so obvious. Even last week Wednesday, it became obvious that we've got to do a live thing, maybe a financial summit. My goodness, let's come down and let's do this, man. We'll do it. Let me see, what last question is there? A good question in the chats, or I'll look for one of the questions here that I can quickly throw out for us to use to round up. How does debt affect my credit score and borrowing ability? I think that's kind of clear. It's come up in the various things that we've said. What are the warning signs of unmanageable debt? Is there any debt really unmanageable?
Yes. So when debt becomes unmanageable, when you cannot meet your repayments. So when you've paid all your bills, all the things, like I said, all the things that you need, like including travel, because if you have to travel to work, which work pays you, that is a need. You need to pay that. So if you've covered if you pay all your needs and the money that you need to pay on a monthly basis for your debts, there's not enough money left. That's how it becomes unmanageable. That's when you need to seek help. You can seek help directly with your debtors to tell them that you can't afford the repayment and can they restructure it. You can also reach out to charities like Turn to Us, and CAP, Christians Against Poverty, who can also help you look at your debt and help you solve that as well.
Well, brilliant, brilliant. Somebody's asking for advice for young adults to get on the property ladder. I think we're going to really go into that next week. But I don't know whether Emmanuel wants to just throw something out on it.
No, definitely. I think the big thing is that it's becoming, especially if you're trying to do it in London, it's becoming harder and harder. So you really need to understand. So to keep it on a basic level, when it comes to buying a house, typically the bank will give you 4.5 times your income. So whatever your annual salary is, so if you're on, if you're on 50,000 times 4.5 times, that's 225,000 that the banks will give you. Now, again, if you're trying to buy it in London, that's not going to get you much. Maybe get you a parking garage. So you're gonna have to be looking at places like Essex, Kent, and so forth to see what you can get. Now, again, also one thing I tell young people is don't write off flats. Okay, yes, it is better to buy a house because you own the freehold, you own the land that the house is on. That is yes, it is better. But if you, in your younger stage, you are in a position where you can only afford to buy a flat, get your flat, then sell it on in the future. As long as you've got a long enough lease on your flat, that's something to look at, how long the lease is of the flat. But get your flat, and then you can, in a few years' time, build up, get your promotions, save your money, and then sell that, and then get a house. Don't limit yourself. I tell people it is easier to buy the second than it is to buy the first. So what happens is sometimes we sit there and say, I don't want to get this flat. I want a house. But actually, if you would have bought that flat and then carried on saving for 3 years, you'd then be able to have enough equity from the growth of the property value in the flat, plus what you can save to then buy the house that you want to get. By the time you try to save with no assets building at the same time, the house price, by the time you can afford the house price now, it's already gone up over time. And so you're chasing something that is going to struggle to catch. Now, also remember, there are things where you can add your parents, even though they have their own place, that you can add their income to help you buy as well. So there are options. So the best thing I always tell people is speak to a broker, speak to someone who can let you know. Don't wait until you think you're ready. Find out and then work backwards. If I know that this is the house I want to buy is worth 300,000, I then know, okay, I need 300,000, which means I need to be on a salary of 65 or 70K. Now I need to work out, I'm currently on 45K. What jobs pay 70K? Okay, I need to do X training. I need to go and do X experience. I need to go and get X mentorship so I can get the job for 70K, which then allows me to buy the house for 300K. It's about really planning. What a lot of us do is say, I want to buy a house for 300K. I'm going to save 30,000, which is 10% deposit, and then buy it. And then you get there and realize they're not going to give you the money. So it's really important to work backwards. Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you. I know there are other questions as typical when we're about to round up. That's when a few other questions start rushing in. What do you think of premium bond savings account?
Yeah, premium bonds are okay. They used to be good back in the day. They used to be very worthwhile doing. But now the rates are not that great. You need to have, I always tell people, you need to have quite a lot in premium bonds to be. Basically, what happens is a raffle every month. So you don't get any interest on it. You get a raffle and you can win from £25 up to 2 people that win £1 million. But obviously, for you to have more tickets in the draw, you need to have more money in there. So I don't necessarily, unless you've got 10, 20, 30,000 pounds worth of money in premium bonds, you're not likely to be drawn quite regularly. So you're probably better off having a normal savings account.
All right, brilliant. We have to call it a night. We have to call it a night. We wanted to close at 8:30. We're at 8:35, but the conversation goes on. We're still continuing next week, Wednesday, and we're, like I said right at the beginning, this is not the only time we'll have Asuquo Emmanuel. We're going to have him again and again, and we're going to do some stuff live by the grace of God. I want to really encourage you all to follow Emmanuel on the various platforms where he is. Google his name, you see all the places. Where can we get you? And how can we follow you?
Yeah, so Instagram is the main platform that I use. It's the page is the Eman, so EMAN effect, EFFECT UK. So the E-Man Effect UK is the page, but if you just search Emmanuel Asuquo, it will come up. I'm on TikTok if you like TikTok. LinkedIn is really good as well. So just type in Emmanuel Asuquo on LinkedIn. And then my website is www.emmanuelasuquo.com. All right. So we can connect on this stuff, and you can get in contact if you feel like you want a one-to-one. You can do that. Also, you can get my book on Amazon, Get Your Money Right, which is a guide on how you can make your money really work for you.
Brilliant. I really recommend that you get the book. It's brilliant. Thank you for your wisdom, Emmanuel. God bless you. Real good. I want to thank all of you that took out time in your evening to be part of the conversation tonight. I trust that it has been a blessing. I can see some feedback already in the chat that people really enjoyed it. We'll throw some of that on screen so that Emmanuel can see that he was the bomb. And then don't you miss next week Wednesday. Next week Wednesday we have a dual guest coming in, and Emmanuel knows them well. Ken and Mary Okorafor of Humble Penny, and they too just released a book, and they are brilliant too. We're blessed. We thank God. Thank you all once again. Let's just show a short word of prayer and we'll call it a night. Okay. Mighty Father, we thank you for tonight, and we thank you for the wisdom that have been shared, the questions that have been answered. Once again tonight, we're praying for the grace to follow through, because we know that knowledge is but potential knowledge and potential power. It is applied knowledge that is real power, that's kinetic. So the grace to apply what we have heard, the grace to follow through, we ask that you grant to us in Jesus' mighty name. Thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you all. Thank you for being on here. If you want to sow to the church, you want to give to the church, you want to support the ministry, the various ways in which you can do so are now showing on the screen. But really looking forward to seeing you on Sunday. It's going to be great. And then next week, Wednesday. Yep.